Irashaimase. Hello and welcome to Fataris' Kitchen. I'm your host, Chef Fataris. It's time once again for Shoot 'em Up Saturday, and on the menu this week we have REDNEG ALLSTARS, Swing By Edition, a bullet hell boss rush. What kind of taste will it have? Let's get cooking and find out. From developer Outside, REDNEG ALLSTARS originally released for the PC as a free title in 2019. Now in June of 2024, it's available via Steam as the Swing By Edition, basically an enhanced version of the original title. If you're a fan of previous Outside titles like Cosmo Dreamer and Like Dreamer, then this one's an easy recommend. But going beyond that, if you're a fan of bullet hells at all, or if you're interested in trying out the genre, then this is one that is a very easy recommend. It's very beginner friendly, but it also has enough challenge here to challenge even the most veteran of Danmaku players. With that said, I'm also hoping that this title also gets a Switch release in the near future, as those previous two titles I've mentioned, Cosmo Dreamer and Like Dreamer, are also both available on the Switch. However, today we are playing it on a Steam Deck, which aside from one or two minor control issues that I have with it, it controls great on, it plays great on, and it's a wonderful way to experience this title. Finding ourselves at the main menu. When you select Game Start, we're taken to our character select, and here initially you'll have the choice of two characters. We can see here we have our shot type as well as our bomb represented here for each character, and also speed. So initially you'll have these two characters available, but throughout the course of your gameplay, completing runs with other characters will unlock an additional 6 characters, each with their own shot types and bombs. So you have a lot of variety here, and that's one of the things that's really exciting about this game, is those characters do play and feel different, so it's worth trying and seeing which one is the best fit for you. Once you select your character, we're taken to our mode select. There'll just be boss rush available the first time you play, and when you select your mode, we're also taken to our difficulty selection. Initially 3 difficulties are available, there are also a couple to unlock. Once you complete boss rush, we'll unlock several new modes as well. There's a speedrun mode, so challenging the game in as short a period of time as possible. There's another Dreamer, which takes characters from Outside's other titles and brings them into this game in another boss rush that's completely separate from the original. The original is built from characters from Outside's other title, or other titles that came before this one, REDNEG. And lastly, there's Endless Mode, which starts at difficulty rank 1, so basically easy, and it ramps up from there with a random selection of bosses. So we can see a random selection of bosses. This is the mode I'll be showing the game off in. Selecting the mode takes us to our difficulty selection. For Endless, it's just Endless itself. We're ready to go. Bam, here we go. So this is REDNEG ALLSTARS. As far as the presentation is concerned, this is done in a Tate vertical scroller style. Our controls are controlled by the left stick or the digital pad, depending on which your preference is if you're using a Steam Deck. And now let's talk a little bit about our shots. So we have 2 shot types. There's our main shot button as well as a rapid fire. In addition, we also have a focus movement button. So if you're using focus movement with rapid or our regular shot, it'll change our shots into our focus movement shot. Each character has a different type of focus shot. For Suisei here, his is a lock-on where you're locking on to the character itself and all your shots are directed at those characters. We also have a bomb available. Although at this point in time we haven't built up any bombs, we'll get there relatively quickly. So as far as the problem I was talking about with the Steam Deck and controls, so your default configuration for your slow movement is the right bump. And your shot button is the A button. So if you're holding those together for an extended period of time, at least for myself, I found that was relatively crampy on the hands, and the trigger would be better. However, the game doesn't bind the triggers by default. Fortunately, we can change that in the Steam Deck settings for the title itself, so that was what I did to make the title overall more comfortable for me to hold down the fire buttons continually. Okay, so back to the game itself. So as we've been hitting the enemies, we've been generating these green crystals. These green crystals are extremely important for a couple different things. So they act both as scoring items as well as increasing our overall score rate. And lastly, these magic items also increase the amount of our magic gauge, which will ultimately be what we get our bombs from. You can see all of that information on the right, and I do have some extra information turned on, so you can see some of the information as far as our rates of how many we've collected and all of that on the left. So this game does use a lot of proximity-based scoring as well as damage. So the closer we are to an enemy, the more damage we'll do to that enemy. So your shots are more powerful really close up. However, in a bullet hell, that can be very dangerous. But there is no hitbox on the boss itself, so you can get basically right on top of the boss. You just have to be careful of the shots. In addition to that, the closer we are to a boss, the larger those magic items, the green crystals, as well as the stars that we see, will be. So what are the stars? The stars are score items. So they're basically just giving a score based off of the rate that we have. So that rate, as I said, was based off of the number of green crystals we've collected, but there's another factor to that as well, and that's also based off of our rank. So let's talk a little bit about rank. So rank, if you're not familiar with the concept, is the difficulty in a lot of shoot 'em ups. So one thing that's nice about this particular title is we can see where our difficulty rank is. Right now we've built up to 16, starting from 1. If you're playing the game on normal, you start the game at rank 50 and build up from there, and so on and so forth. Basically, the higher the rank, the harder the bosses become, with more bullets and crazier patterns. Fortunately though, this game rewards you for having higher ranks by giving you overall a better score. So the longer you can survive, the higher your difficulty is going to be. And what's going and building up that? Basically all our score, once again, those green crystals that we're selecting are also what control that. So that's why they're such a crucial item to the game itself. And that's basically covering all the major points of the game itself. So we haven't talked a little bit about our life and our magic gauge though. So the magic gauge is the bomb, as I mentioned, but it also acts as an auto bomb. So should we take a hit like we did there, it will engage as an auto bomb, thus protecting you from losing a life. However, it only affects a small area. It doesn't affect the whole stage, like if we actually use the bomb on purpose this way. And that also changes the shots that are on the stage into scoring items, thus allowing you to collect more points if there happen to be a lot of bullets there. There's also some graze mechanics for the enemy bullets, where if we're close enough to enemy bullets, we'll generate even more scoring items. So for some smaller bullets like this, it's possible, but there's not a ton of points. However, for certain shots like lasers, for example, you can get a lot of those bonus stars. So most of the bosses that we'll be fighting against have two forms, and you can see those hearts represented on the life bar underneath the main life bar, slightly off to the left. The exception being the final boss in the boss rush mode has several more basically several more forms or modes to the fight than what we see for most of the bosses that we've been fighting. There is also a true last boss, and with the extra information we have turned on, you can see whether or not in the boss rush, if you're actually on track to get that. It's not terribly difficult to get to the final true boss, and indeed that boss fight is quite something. Really, as long as you get some your magic gauge built up relatively early, the game itself flows pretty easily on both the easy, of course, and normal difficulties until you get to some of the later bosses, and that's as it should be, and it gets pretty satisfying that way. But as I mentioned, because of the rank system and the way that this game is with the whole focus movement and your magic gauge auto bomb system, I do feel this title is an excellent title for bullet hell beginners. So if you're looking to experience a bullet hell title and a lot of the other ones look intimidating, definitely give this one a try. The price point is pretty reasonable. Hopefully we'll go and see a Switch port soon, and whether you're playing it on a PC or a Steam Deck, the game controls and just feels great. Minus that one problem that I was expressing with my hand cramping up with the original control scheme. So as far as the minus flavors are concerned, there's not really much that I have to say that's bad about this title. Basically, the only thing I can say is if you're not a fan of bullet hells at all, then this is probably one that you're not going to be terribly interested in. But even then, like where there are demos or the original version available for free, maybe give it a try and you might find yourself enjoying it more than you initially thought. But as far as the plus side, so one thing that I can definitely say, this title does have a really great soundtrack, and some of the tracks in particular I really enjoy listening to and getting to, especially as we get later on into the game. Might not be everybody's cup of tea, but for me personally, it definitely hits on all the right notes. Then we have that incredible selection of bosses, 67 different bosses, all with different kind of bullet patterns, some like really unique and awesome to just like witness and be part of, and that just feels great when you can go and dodge around them or just like even just see the way that they're visually presented. And lastly, as I've said a couple times, I feel like this is an incredible, great shoot 'em up, a bullet hell for both beginners to the genre as well as those that are Danmaku experts as well. So there we have it. REDNEG ALLSTARS Swing By Edition, a solid recommend to the chef. Definitely add this one to your collection. Alright, that'll just about bring us to the end of this week's episode of Shoot 'em Up Saturday. As always, I want to thank you so much for joining us. I hope you have a wonderful week yourself, and we look forward to seeing you again next time.